Toby here with Off the Ship. Bit of a special job here, rush job. Yeah, so we're gonna take a break from the John Deere 110 round fender rebuild and see if we can do something about it today. And this is the special job. So far as I can tell, it's a early 90s Kent Roadmaster Tricycle. I believe it's a 10-inch tire. And let's see here, the customer states, actually the customer doesn't say anything because customer's a child, but recently it came up, it'd be kind of neat if little buddy could bebop around on this thing when he's ready. So we're gonna try to fix some of the wear parts. We got some bushings. This axle and fork assembly is in pretty rough shape. All in all, I think this thing, everything needs maintenance, including little tricycles. So, first impression here. This doesn't, so I'm no bicycle expert. I'm certainly no tricycle expert, but, this doesn't look right. There's some angularity here. This fork should be kind of pointing in a direction. One would think that if the fling from the fender, this looks odd. So I'm not really sure how that's supposed to go. We'll try to sort that out. Obviously the headstock bushing here and here is pretty tired. This thing is pretty rough shape. And I believe these are splayed out. Probably gonna grab a measurement and see if we can't pinch those back in. And I'm hoping that the stamped sheet metal here still has enough rigidity to kind of hold it. Other than that, this thing is in surprisingly good shape for if I had to guess, maybe 30, 35 years old. So, hey, Kent, get on ya. A little shot of the nameplate. It's also got an interesting paint job. It's like metallic quilted, a really nice paint job. And to match a pretty not so great hot welding situation here. So a brilliant paint job, and the welds are, so kind of interesting mashup of workmanship here. But so in order to execute these repairs, I've ordered a few things. I actually have not looked at this one yet, so we'll take a quick peek. There we are. So this is what I hope to be the bushing material. Acetyl, that could be the trade name. I don't work with plastics a lot. I do a little research between HDPE, UHMW, nylon. I think there were a few other ones, but according to my research, Delrin was the appropriate material. So anyway, I'm going to take this, a little bit of luck. It's the right size. All right, 1.8, 625. So this should be 2 inches. And immediately we tell I had to open the jaws up, so we're in good shape. 2 inches and some change. Great. So we'll just stick this on the lathe and be coming back to that in a little bit. And this is the other thing that I found on eBay for this project. So I think early 90s, which lines up with this, Roadmaster, and I thought these were made by Schwinn. Illinois, USA. Niagara Falls, Ontario. In UK. So I guess they have 3 offices. If you want to give them a call, 30 or 35 years ago, that's the place to do it. 1995 Roadmaster. That puts into that mystery. And for whatever reason, I thought that this was a Schwinn product, but you know, who knows? Is that Dutch or German? I don't really know. So, super cool. Here is the original Roadmaster frame. Let me just unbox this stuff for you. See what we're working with. It's kind of neat. So good old parts. Here's the seat. Here are the forks. Handlebars. Rear tires. And the manual. There's the pedals, hand grips. This is this fender, I guess. This, and then here are the axle parts that I'm after. That's kind of cool. We have the parts list, an owner's manual. Who'd have thunk? Oh, you can look at that. You buy accessories for this thing. How cool is that? So I think we're in pretty good shape. We have parts list, manual, spare parts for a very similar Roadmaster tricycle. I believe this was like a high quality clone. At this point, you know, you may be wondering why. And it's a totally reasonable question. Why rebuild this one when you have all the parts for a brand new one? Well, this one's got the miles on it. My wife rode this thing around, and then her sister rode this thing around, and then her brother, I bet you her brother was the one that really did it in, but he rode this thing around, and it's got sentimental value. So we're not going to fret too much about the price. So we seem to get ourselves into quite a few projects like this, whether it be, you know, this tricycle, or the John Deere, or the South Bend lathe, or Vernon jig bore. I tend to take on projects that are meaningful to me and to my family, and I think this is one of those cases. So that's the reason we're doing this. We'd like to keep this as original as possible. Obviously, want to make it safe, functional, so little buddy can tear around on it. So that's why I bought all those parts. And I also have another axle kick coming today, hopefully in the mail. 9/16 maybe, probably metric. First turn on the new Icon wrenches. That locking collar has been locked and locked, and then locked one place where it probably shouldn't have been locked. Great shape though. Great. Put you with the OG parts. Alrighty. fair amount of wear right there. Nothing that, I mean, if you were measuring it, it'd be in mils. It's not significant in the upper load bearing surface. The lower one's pretty good shape, which makes sense. Yeah. All right, that's problem number 2. Problem number 1. That's the upper one. That's the lower one. I don't think Mr. Vever will mind. Hold on, if I write on that. Hot pink is the only color I have. Less about the color and more about the ability to erase. So we're just going to map this out. 1.727. 1.858. Not getting into half thousands. I barely trust these things to 1,000. So, and then we can essentially make these as tall as we want, but 0.865 with paint, 0.862 without. Let's start with that. Yeah, you can really tell the difference between this and UHMW. It's way harder. Yeah, that stuff's super hard. That's good. I can't remember if this has the self-lubricating properties or not, but whatever. I got quite a bit here, so I can make a few. My pass-through on the lathe, I think, is like 1.75 inches. So 1.25 inches. I'm not a machinist, obviously, by trade, but we do have a lathe at work, and not so much these days, but I used to spend a lot of time on that thing, probably more time than some people would have liked. Get out, Yeti. So I get confused with the larger machine at work and my heavy 10 here at home. So, all right, I'm going to cut this. Again, plastic. I'm just gonna, let's see. Let's see if the little handheld job will do it, and if not, we'll escalate to a portaband. Man, this stuff is tough. That was a fine blade, I think, on there, but even still, woo-wee. I got a Delrin set up. So I played around with the Delrin a little bit. It likes speed. Speed in the feed. You know, if you were a... this is really important. I would have looked up in the machinist handbook. You know, the cutting speed, the RPM, you know, that sort of thing, the feed rates. But this isn't that critical, so I didn't. But that's not to say that that's not to say you shouldn't. I was already pecking at this a little bit, so I'll just touch off, kind of where I know is safe. Yeah. That should be in the neighborhood of 0.865. You see that or not? It's worth a check. We want this to fit. So this will compress when I drive it in. We want, and this is the turning bit, so it's gonna be crazy stiff, or I'm just gonna take another, I don't know, a couple thousandths off of that. Alrighty, that's pretty happy. All right, major diameter is 1.858, I think. So 2.0445. We want to do that the other way around. .58, is that right? Yeah, that's 186 thousandths. Not quite wide enough for this live center, but at least it'll do something. At that point, it's just a safety device for me, but it would be nice to get a bullnose live center or something like that. Should be around 101.938. If I'm wrong, I'll just edit it out. All right, so that is 1.9385. That last significant digit's really for the birds, but. So when I had a few minutes earlier, I looked up shrinkage for ID crush, and I guess as a rule of thumb, 50% of the OD interference. So the example was for a 3,000ths interference fit, expect inner diameter reduction of 1.5 thousandths to 3 thousandths. All right, so we're touched off. We gotta go 136. So let's take it 100. Like, see where we're at. All right, 1.762, which checks out. All right, looking at bringing in 36 thousandths. Let's go 10, 20, 30, 33. All right, swap over to our parting tool. these fit very loose down here. They get a little tight, but I think that's just because that likely been oblonged or something. That's okay. We'll see what we can do with it. You know what? Let me press this in with my, quite obviously I don't have a press of any sort here, so we're gonna do what we can with the vise. Alrighty, that felt nice, pretty pumped about that. Probably should have put a little chamfer on these. This one keeps fighting me. I might just do that. Alrighty. Perfect. Pretty happy that came out. Let's see. Nice. Perfect. Alrighty. Well, that's pretty tight. Sweet. One problem solved. On to this one. Not much of a body work, man, but if you could fix that. So there's this little ridge, particularly right here. I'm just trying to get that out of there. And I don't really know what I'm doing. Does look a little bit better. So you know what? Let's see how about these bearings here. It is a hot one. Ooh wee. So take a look at our options here. Now, first things first, will they both fit? So that fits nice and smooth. That really doesn't. Yeah, have to do some work on those. And then for these, they're kind of just supposed to snap in, I believe. I just don't. It's like flimsy and how about all that? Almost seems like there's a bearing in this one, which would be a significant improvement. You can see that, but kind of feels like there's a bearing in there. Yeah, there is. Not a great one. I wonder if a little oil might make these grumbly fellas a little bit happier. Yeah. This probably could make something work here, but we got to get it down on there. that might be a trick. All right, now how to hold this will be the other issue. Well, let's try it. Oop. Huh. So that's just asking for trouble. I guess I can try to stabilize it. That's never going to work. I didn't just do that. Yeah, I'm not doing this either. That one's got oil. That one's got oil on it. Even with all the tooling in the world, I don't know exactly how you were supposed to hold this to begin with. That would have been a trick for anybody with any sort of work holding material. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Cool. Look at that. Took some doing, but cool. Should be on there okay. Flip it around. So the downside to this is these will need to take some oil. But the upshot is they'll probably last forever if they're oiled. And then this is, again, the real trick. These profiles are not quite right, so. Yeah. I have to jimmy this thing around. I do know that we can put this part in. That looks better. Oh no. Last thing here, let's get some, open these up just slightly. And why won't you go? Back to 1964, I believe. You know what? I'm not going to measure it. I'm so committed to this trial and error. I'm just going to keep going up till that screw passes. Yeah, I don't know how this axle is supposed to feel, but I'm sort of comparing it to a bicycle, perhaps. I mean, yeah. I think we are in business there. Great. All right, do we want to use the original pedals? The original pedals, again, are pretty wallowed out. Should probably try these ones just because they don't have 35 years of abuse. Play spring at raised portion towards closed end of the pedal. The slot in the pedal. The ring will be destroyed, need to be replaced. I would really like to put those on last just to make sure I don't have to disassemble this again for some unforeseen reason. So we'll do that. All right, so the axle is the last part. Now I'd like to replace that. Got some sweet new rims. Just verify that this is in fact the same. It's not long enough. That's all right. That's okay because this measured a little bit larger. So I can, worst case Ontario here, I can turn it down a little bit. Push the bottom end of the frame 3 into the slot in the deck. So 3, 4. Frame deck. Loosely fastened frame using 2 bolts, lock washers, and nuts. So I'm gonna try to do nut up this time. I put the nut up so I can come back with some Loctite. I feel like the girls that rode this, I mean girls, I married one of them, but when they were younger, they probably didn't, probably weren't too bad on this thing, and that's one of the reasons it's still around. But then I think along came Uncle Nick and rode this thing hard. If I had to guess, little buddy's gonna be pretty similar. He's a rowdy kid, so I'm gonna try to come back and use some Loctite or what I can, do what I can to get some years out of it. Yeah. These are slightly different diameters. I don't know if it matters. 3.73, 3.92. Yeah, I might have to turn these down here. Just won't fit. It's okay. Pretty obvious where that all sits, so let's go do that. It's kind of fun filming the lathe jobs, even though it is really difficult. Keith Fenner, I don't know how you do it, but guy makes it look easy. He's also been, he was a retired inside machinist at Boston Shipyard. I think the guy's, does this work in his sleep. So the lathe part probably isn't hard for him. And he sure does make the filming part look easy too. Interesting guy there. So if you're just, poking along and come across this channel and say you just got a lathe or something and you think, oh man, this guy really knows what he's doing, let me be the first to tell you I don't. Back when I was studying school, all right, let's put the back gears in. Studying, I took a half semester of machine tool technology or something like that. We did a few projects. I learned the very basics and really enough to make me dangerous. It's my formal education in machine shop stuff is virtually nothing. But really, it was YouTube. So there's guys like Keith Fenner I've mentioned a few times, Keith Rucker, a couple Keiths there, A-Bomb, Tublicane or Tublicon. Pretty sure that's a biblical reference. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's a bunch of folks out there that do a lot of lathe content that really know what they're doing. And I've watched a lot of those folks, but Keith Fenner obviously was the one I spent the most time watching. And really cool dude. I never met him. I actually have interacted with him a little bit. I was at work. I was on the ship one time and I had to machine a part. This part was an expensive part, and like really expensive, like cost more than my house, kind of expensive. And I had to put an O-ring groove on it, and I really didn't know the setup. I'd never done it before, but I really needed to do it. And I reached out to this guy on. This was years ago. I mean, he's got a lot of followers now, so I don't know if you probably had the same reaction that I did back then. But I reached out and asked him some questions, and he had some manuals I didn't, and some resources, and he spent a little bit of time coaching me up, and I'll never forget it. That O-ring groove and that really expensive critical part is probably out there turning away right now on a ship. That guy made me look like the hero. So, Keith Fenner, thanks, man. Cool dude. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the more. I don't know how we got sideways on that story. The moral of that story is there's a lot of people that like do this for a living, this profession. I can at times, when pressed into service, perform some things that look like traditionally a machinist job. I'm not a machinist. I think it's really cool. Obviously, I love doing it, but okay. I say that's proof, but I'm pretty sure machinists do that stuff all the time too. Nope. They probably don't start their lathe with the back gears on though. Alrighty. We're just going to kind of center the wear marks. Should be some about right there. Oh boy. Hmm. 23 and 10B. Now. So, let me see. 24, but there's something else going on here. Spacers? Must be. Alright. And finally, these, which appear to be too long. The axles. Shucks. What we're looking for? Would you look at that? This set screw, perfect size. You know, sometimes things just work out. I'm also fairly certain this is 316 stainless, which is pretty awesome. We'll have to worry about that one rusting out. So let's see. So, little fella, you know, I was thinking to lower this thing, but you gotta be tall enough to get the pedals, I suppose. No. Lastly, the foot pedals. The raised portion goes to the small hole. Alrighty. As far down as possible, it says. Jeez Louise, this thing is that one was fairly simple. I can imagine that caused some words that Santa wouldn't be excited about on Christmas Eve. It is the same day, which is sort of a victory on its own. We were able to complete a project start to finish in one day. So this belonged obviously to my wife, and then my sister-in-law, and my brother-in-law. Ultimately, the Grandpa and Gigi are the owners of this, so it's going to live up at their house. But I would like to, you know, clean it up a little bit, get the rust off the handlebar before we go deliver it, and hopefully get another 35 years of use out of it. But all in all, pretty darn excited. I'm really excited about the bearing upgrade. I think that will make a big difference. Now, they do need to be oiled, which is a pain. I don't know how often, but as long as they stay oiled, I mean, they should serve a nice long life. And this will wear in as little buddy rides it and gets stronger. And there's some cousins involved, which I'm sure can help get that worn in before little buddy takes over. So that's it. A fun project. Kind of an all-ball one, but yeah, I guess we'll start. We'll get back on the 110 here shortly. But as always, if you like the content, check out Off the Ship. Consider subscribing. Give us a like. I've been on the other side of this conversation a million times, and you know, it's a little clunky, but it does help. And I really appreciate your time.